Hey, what's up everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be going over if boot camps are still worth it, especially now in the year 2023, almost 2024. So in this video, I'm going to break down the pros and cons of why you should consider going to a coding boot camp and alternatives that you can focus on instead of a coding boot camp should you not choose to go that route. And I really just wanted to make this video because coding boot camps are potentially a viable option if you want to break into the world of tech. And it's a huge decision. Boot camps can cost upwards of $10,000, $20,000 or more. So I wanted to make this video to kind of give you the most information possible before you make a huge decision like that. Now, something I want to mention before I get into the pros and cons is that I'm actually a self-taught developer, but I actually started my learning journey to become a software developer actually at a coding boot camp. The thing is, I actually only went for 1 week. So I'm not really sure I got the full boot camp experience. I dropped out, so that should kind of maybe give you a little bit of my headspace, but I'll try to be as objective about it as possible. I don't want to let my personal biases get in the way. That being said, let's focus on the pros for going to a coding boot camp. So the thing with coding boot camps is that they take people who have little to no knowledge of computer science topics, programming, etc., and who aren't really, I guess, autodidacts or self-learners. You know, some people just prefer a classroom environment. And I think if you're the type of person that prefers the classroom and, being lectured by a teacher and being guided on how to do certain things, then maybe a coding bootcamp would be for you. So in that sense, having that structured learning environment in which you can take particular classes, learn specific technologies, I see that as a pro because if you're that type of person, that could work really well for you. Now, the thing is, if you're someone like me, a self-learner, you wouldn't really value that type of environment. So for me, it's a no, but for other people, I do recognize that could be something that they hold in high regard. Another pro I want to mention is networking. You know how they say it's not about what you know, it's about who you know? That especially rings true for the tech industry. Sure, you can go and get a job just by applying normally, but it really helps if you know a lot of people, if you have friends in different companies, if you know lots of recruiters. Networking is never a bad thing. The thing about coding boot camps is that you are in an environment of learning and everyone there is going to go out into the world and apply to jobs, and probably get some positions here and there. If you have a wide network, you can leverage, your newfound friends and colleagues to help you get into those companies or put in a good word for you. It should go without saying, but networking is super powerful. And if you can just get that by going to a coding boot camp, then that's just a plus for you. So the next pro I want to talk about is career coaching. So any coding bootcamp that's actually worth going to is going to have services after you graduate. What do I mean by this? So after you graduate, they're not just going to kick you out into the street and say, oh, go look for a job. No, they want to help you find a job. So they're going to have in-house recruiters and counselors to help you do that. It's very important that you know about this because if you go to a coding bootcamp and then find out that they don't offer these services, you're going to have a real hard time breaking into the tech industry with just the skills that you acquired at a coding bootcamp. Remember, job hunting is a job in and of itself. So to have qualified people show you how to write a good resume, how to sell yourself to recruiters, doing mock interviews with you so you can improve your coding interview performance, things like that. Having an environment where people are willing to help you and you're in there with other people can go a long way. And I definitely think that if you do choose to go to a coding bootcamp, make sure that this is something that they offer. I know most coding bootcamps do offer this, so you should be okay, but just always double check if they do offer it because you need that extra help to help get you into the tech industry. Because any bit of extra help you can get to help you break into a new industry is definitely something you should be looking for. So that's pretty much it for the pros of going to a coding bootcamp. So now let's talk about the cons. So the first con I want to talk about is the cost of coding bootcamps themselves. Now, again, there are many options that you can choose from out there. So I'm not going to point out any specific coding bootcamps, but generally speaking, from my experience, most coding bootcamps will cost at least $10,000, if not more. I've heard some going upwards of $30,000 or having some sort of like wage garnishing deal where like if you get a job, they take a percentage of your annual salary or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. So if $10,000 seems steep to you or any number higher than that, then I suggest you reconsider going to a coding bootcamp. Another con I want to discuss is the potentially bad education you might be receiving at a coding bootcamp. So what exactly do I mean by this? Well, it's really important to know what kind of instructors your coding bootcamp is going to offer, because if the instructors are industry veterans who know what they're talking about, who have years, potentially decades of experience in the field that they're teaching in, then it's likely that their curriculum is going to be a pretty solid curriculum. You're going to be able to learn a lot from them as a result. However, I've noticed that for a lot of coding bootcamps, after someone graduates, some of the graduates are actually offered jobs as instructors in the bootcamp. Now, the problem with this is that, sure, that individual may be decent enough at coding, but it's like they just graduated from the program, so it's almost like they're just, I guess, regurgitating what they learned back to the next group of people, the next cohort that comes in to the bootcamp. Now, as you might imagine, someone who went from being a carpenter to 3 or 4 months later is now teaching classes in web development doesn't sound that compelling now, does it? I would much rather have an industry veteran, someone who actually knows what they're talking about and has the experience to back up why they can actually teach the class in the first place. It's likely that you will come across some boot camps where the majority of the instructors, if not all the instructors, are just former graduates. So if that's the case, I definitely wouldn't go with that program. So if you're looking at a coding bootcamp, just make sure to take the time and see what kind of experience the instructors have. Now, this next con that I'm about to talk about actually ties into the previous one a little bit. You'll see why in a second. So historically, a lot of coding bootcamps actually don't have that high of a success rate. I think circa like 2013, 14, 15, 16, around that era when coding bootcamps were like new and cool, they had a lot higher success rate. But especially nowadays, I don't really see coding bootcamps as successful as they used to be. Especially now with the economy and experienced tech workers having a hard time finding jobs. If you're going to a coding bootcamp, I just feel like the curriculum that they teach you just won't measure up to actual real world experienced people who have a number of years in the industry. Because remember, even they are having a tough time finding jobs right now. The whole economy is bad. So I don't think that going to a coding bootcamp is going to look as compelling on your resume as just actual work experience. And the reason why I say this con is tied to the previous one is because what a lot of coding bootcamps do is they fluff their numbers. They say, oh, we have 80, 90% success rate, but they don't actually show where those alumni or graduates actually got their jobs. Because in reality, it could just be that those graduates just got hired by the coding bootcamp and then they just said, oh, well, they got hired after they graduated our program. So we're going to count that as a win and add it to our success rate. Personally, I wouldn't consider getting hired on to teach at a coding bootcamp as successful if your goal is to become a software developer. That's just me personally, but most coding bootcamps do fudge the numbers a little bit, so they're not being truthful. In my opinion, in order for a coding bootcamp to be successful, they have to have graduates that graduate from their programs and then go off to get software engineering jobs, not just hired by the bootcamp themselves. But it is something you definitely have to be careful of. The next con I want to talk about is just the sheer time investment involved with coding bootcamps. So the coding bootcamp that I went to briefly for about a week was called Coding Dojo, based in Bellevue, Washington. And even within the first week, it was actually pretty rigorous. It wasn't just your 9 to 5 thing. Honestly, most people at that bootcamp worked pretty hard. It was at least 12 hours a day. So it's a huge time investment. If you think you can work a part-time job, good luck with that. Let alone a full-time job, that's just not going to work. It's something that if you go and do it, you're definitely going to have to cut out like 3 to 4 months of your time just specifically for this bootcamp. Now, I am aware there are part-time options, so you could explore those. But even then, like if you're going part-time, that means the curriculum is going to be longer. So let's say you're doing the bootcamp after work or on weekends or something. It could still take you 6 to 9 months. So do you want your weekends and your spare time taken up by something like this? I don't know. It's up to you. When you make the decision to go to a coding bootcamp, it will eat up a lot of your time. That's just how it is. All right, so that's going to do it for the pros and cons. Now, I wasn't sure if I wanted to include this in the video, but I decided, hey, I should at least give my own personal opinion on are coding bootcamps worth it or not. So for me personally, I'll just flat out say it, I don't think coding bootcamps are worth it. And they haven't been for a number of years. And the reason boils down to this. Anything you learn in a coding bootcamp can very easily be learned online. You can find various programming courses on YouTube, Udemy, wherever. There's so much free information at your fingertips. I just can't wrap my head around why it would be worth it for someone to take months out of their life and tens of thousands of dollars, a huge investment for most people, to go learn skills that they could just very easily learn for free online. So when you start thinking of things that way, it makes coding bootcamps seem less necessary. And to me, they just aren't necessary at all. And that's really the main reason why I'm not a huge fan of coding bootcamps. I think self-learning is one of the best skills a software engineer can learn, because as a software engineer, you're going to be learning all the time. You have to keep up with new technologies, tech stacks, tools, whatever. So you're going to be learning a lot on your own anyways. And so teaching yourself new skills is going to be something that's going to last your entire career as a software developer. And so I don't think that just jumping into a coding bootcamp because they give you big guarantees like, oh, if you stick with us for 3 months, we'll teach you everything you need to know, and then we'll guarantee you a job or something like that. Just, you have to be realistic, especially, again, and I've said this before in this video, but the economy just isn't doing so well right now. Qualified engineers are having a hard time finding jobs. So do you really think that you who just graduated from a coding bootcamp is going to have the same chance? No. And I don't want to be mean, but it's realistic, okay? Having a coding bootcamp on your resume just doesn't make you look good. In all honesty, it probably turns recruiters off to you because it's just another school that's just churning out candidates and they're flooding the market with their resumes, and recruiters are just tired of coming across these people. They want actual engineers who have actual real world experience. And I just don't think that coding bootcamps can really measure up to that level of experience. There's just no way. And personally speaking, if I was a recruiter, I would much rather prefer a computer science graduate with 1 or 2 internships under their belt over a bootcamp graduate any day of the week. So while personally, I believe that you can save yourself a lot of time and money by just learning everything yourself, if a coding bootcamp is something you really want to do, if you just have to have that environment, like that structured environment, that structured curriculum, the instructors, the coaching, the whole thing, if you feel like you need that to succeed, really spend a lot of time vetting various coding bootcamps. What works best for your schedule, what won't break the bank, what kind of instructors do they have, what their curriculum looks like, because it's better to have a specialty than being a generalist. So you want to make sure you find something in a coding bootcamp that you would actually want to learn and then be an expert in so you can go find a job in it. But in my personal opinion, I just don't think they're worth it. You're better off just learning on your own. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope I provided enough information for you to make your choice about whether you want to go to a coding bootcamp or not. It's still an important decision to make, regardless of how I feel about it. So I hope that this video helped you in making that decision. In any case, hope you learned something. Please hit like and subscribe. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you in the next video.